Kentucky Sextortion Coalition press conference, and we say, what is sextortion? Sextortion is a form of exploitation that occurs when a person obtains sexually explicit images of an individual and threatens to release them unless their demands are met. That could be monetary, sexual, or other requests. There is a steep climb in 14 to 17-year-old boys being targeted for sextortion. However, younger boys or anyone can become a target of online sexual extortation. Teenage boys can be targeted by adult predators pretending to be young girls. Predators, also called sextortionists, feign a romantic interest in the boys on gaming platforms, apps, and social media sites. Mainly, it's the money. Money is sought after trickery to get sexually explicit photos from unsuspecting youths from their cell phones or computers. However, victims can be young adults or adults. Victims are threatened and harassed relentlessly with the release of the photos to teachers, classmates, friends, and parents. The Kentucky Sextortion Coalition welcomes Senator Julie Rocky Adams, sponsor of Senate Bill 73 on sexual extortion, sextortion. Senator Adams has Senate Bill 73 as a top priority to get passed in this 2025 Kentucky General Assembly. We also want to congratulate Senator Adams' appointment by Senate President Robert Stivers to the Council of State Governments Southern Office to serve on the Human Services and Public Safety Committee. Let's welcome Senator Adams.
Good morning, everybody. I feel like I'm too low, these microphones. I hope you can hear me okay. So thank you all for being here today, and thank you to the Kentucky Sextortion Coalition for your tireless work in protecting Kentucky's children and your dedication to this issue. I'm really honored to stand here with these advocates today. We all know that being a kid today is very different than when we grew up. Social media and technology have changed the way young people connect, but it's also opened the door to new dangers that we never had to face before. Sexual extortion is one of the most dangerous and rapidly growing crimes targeting our young people today. It is calculated, it is cruel, and it thrives on fear and silence. Too many kids are being manipulated into situations they don't know how to escape from, and too many families are left devastated, wondering how this happened. But we will be silent no more when it comes to the safety of all Kentuckians, especially our kids. That is why Senate Bill 73 is so important. This bill does three critical things. It strengthens our laws by making sexual extortion a felony, ensuring that predators who use threats, coercion, and intimidation to exploit victims are held accountable. Number two, it empowers the victim by giving them clear legal remedies to seek justice and recover damages from those who have harmed them. And lastly, it prioritizes prevention by requiring schools to educate students and parents about the warning signs and ensuring resources are visible and accessible in both K through 12 and college. So I filed this bill last year because I knew we needed to do more. This year, I am encouraged to see Senate Bill 73 already moving swiftly. I talked to the Senate Judiciary Chair, Brandon Storm, and he has agreed to hear this as soon as he can. And so we have the momentum, and I'm hoping that we will get this across the finish line this year. So this allows 24 hours access for victimization. And Kentucky is now standing up with Senate Bill 73 to say no more, leave our kids alone.
Hello, my name is Sarah Collins. I am an attorney in Louisville. During the summer and fall of 2020, Louisville Metro Police Detective Brian Wilson sexually extorted at least 25 women. He spent a little over a year for these crimes in federal prison on charges of cyber stalking. I became aware of Brian Wilson and the existence of sexual extortion simultaneously when late one night in October 2022, I received a call from one of his heartbroken, terrified, angry victims. She had been to federal court that day. She had read her victim's impact statement, and she was present while he was sentenced. She called and said, I really have no idea what I'm asking you to do. All I know is that he deserves more time for what he has done to women, and people need to know this exists. That began me telling this story of the courageous, smart, brilliant woman who has come to be known as Jane Doe. Jane Doe is a public high school teacher. She was in her mid-20s when she received late one night a text message asking for her Snapchat password, pretending to be Snapchat administration. She was half asleep and gave it to them. And the next thing she knew, she was inundated with harassment, text after text after text from various phone numbers, demanding nude pictures. The person had hacked into her Snapchat account and found a video that she had never shared with anyone, including her long-term partner that she made the video with. The person knew where she worked. The person knew the names and phone numbers of her parents. The person knew all about her life and threatened to expose her and send the video if she did not send more nudes. She was terrified and she called the police, only to be told, we don't know what to do. Call this number. She called the number of the sex crimes unit at least 10 times until she was no longer able to leave a message and no one called her back. She was devastated, anxious, depressed, and eventually became suicidal. As a teacher, she knew if these images got out, it would be the end of her career. It would cost her everything, and she felt small and powerless and stupid. But Jane Doe, like so many victims, was anything but. She had went back to teaching that fall and received a call from the FBI. They found the messages during another investigation, and it ended up that her perpetrator was a police officer. She has continued to fight civilly, criminally, and taking her message to the public as much as she can. She has appeared in front of news media, concealing her identity. She wants everyone to know this happens, and this can happen to you. It's happening everywhere. When Brian Wilson got out of prison, he was not registered as a sex offender. He has no internet restrictions. And if anyone living in his neighborhood or area tries to protect their children by looking at the registry, Brian Wilson's name will not show up. I am here today because Kentucky law does not adequately address sextortion. It is prosecuted both civilly and criminally by a patchwork of laws that do not address the gravity of the crime, the danger, and the nature of the perpetrator, and that must change. Several states have recently passed sextortion laws. Unfortunately, those changes have come after people in those states have committed suicide. Recently, a South Carolina lawmaker's son committed suicide, and days later they learned he had been the victim of sextortion. I ask all lawmakers to look at the gravity and the potential for harm. This crime is here in the Commonwealth. It is your neighbors, it is your family, it is your friends, and it is your children. And unless something changes, it will hit home. And if it does, you can never say there was nothing you could do. There is something you can do to protect Kentuckians. Support Senate Bill 73. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your work, Sarah. Good morning. My name is Shannon Moody. I'm the Chief Policy and Strategy Officer at Kentucky Youth Advocates. We are Kentucky's independent voice for kids. Kentucky Youth Advocates, along with members of the Kentucky Sextortion Coalition, are grateful to our legislative leaders for tackling the issue of sexual extortion or sextortion of Kentucky's youth. We are especially grateful for Senator Julie Rocky Adams for leading the charge. Senate Bill 73 is a critical bill that, when passed and signed into law, will create a safer environment for all of Kentucky's kids. We know that because children across Kentucky are increasingly vulnerable to online sexual extortion or sextortion, we need to take action. Perpetrators use social media platforms, gaming sites, messaging apps, and other means to target youth posing as peers or romantic interests. Those perpetrators often use threats of exposure to coerce victims into providing explicit content, as Sarah had mentioned, or money, leaving many children feeling ashamed and too scared to seek any help. Nationally, over half of minors view online grooming as a common experience among children their age, really highlighting the widespread nature of how prevalent this is. And between October of 2021 and March of 2023, over 13,000 cases of online financial sextortion targeting minors were reported by the FBI and Homeland Security. And unfortunately, the FBI reported at least 20 of those victims died by suicide after the offense. We need to take action this legislative session. We are lucky to have Senator Rocky Adams leading the charge on this. I urge all of our lawmakers to join the advocates in this room, as well as the Co-Serve for Kids Face It movement and Senator Rocky Adams in her efforts to hold perpetrators of sextortion accountable and support the education of our communities around those risks so that our children can be safe online. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Detective Rick Lynn from the Frankfort Police Department. I work in the Special Victims Unit, working on cases for exploited and victim children. I also run the statewide Human Trafficking Task Force as the chairperson of it. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. It's a pleasure for being on the team. When I grew up, the world was a different place. Probably the most risque thing I had in my house is this Sears catalog. And for you young folks, it used to be a catalog with lots of toys, but you could pretty much buy anything in it. Technology went from pagers to bag phones to flip phones to Blackberries to smartphones to now computer goggles. And now AI is changing the world. Our laws haven't had time to catch up with all that digital technology. Where stranger danger was in my world, that doesn't exist anymore because all the gaming platforms put strangers in to play games with your kids. And it's very difficult for parents to even turn on parental controls on those games to limit those strangers in with the kids. So slowly the digital world has taken tools away from parents and schools. And that hurts families. Sextortion we talk about the victim, but let's talk about the victim's family, the mom, the dad, brothers and sisters. The new generation is called the Alpha generation, from 1 to 25 now. From the kids, it's had phones all the way up until 25 years of age. We're giving cell phones to 7, 8, 9-year-old kids with full access to the internet. So the predators now have full access, even if, like my parents said, you're not allowed to talk with strangers. The internet puts strangers in with your kid, and at that point your kid becomes a victim or a target for someone who wants to victimize it. Right now, the exposure to pornography on the internet, most children at 11 years old are exposed to pornography. From 13 to 17, most teens on a regular basis watch pornography. So through their sexual boundaries get blurred. So when someone finds them on the internet and talks to them about sending a naked picture or receiving a naked picture, now all those boundaries are blurred, and most parents don't have the tools to even govern that, because we don't have any laws that govern that. There is laws that hit and miss throughout this extortion bill, but for the most part, there's nothing to charge for. At this point, most parents or schools don't even know what to do when something like this happens. So House Bill or Senate Bill 73 would give parents and schools tools back in their toolbox to protect our children. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Thompson, and I am the program coordinator at People Against Trafficking Humans Coalition of Kentucky. And I support the call of action that you've heard from my fellow Sextortion Coalition members, that Senate Bill 73 should be prioritized this 2025 session and move through the legislative process swiftly. We're pleased at PATH to see the statutory language and the crafting of this bill because it is so important to protect our young people in Kentucky, all of our adolescents ages 9 to 20, and our young adults as well, because we know that the word that you've been hearing is vulnerability, correct? And so we need to treat our digital environments just like we would other environments where our children are in. As you've heard from others speaking today, the statistics and trends reported by federal law enforcement and other agencies show us that they're facing great risks in our digital environments that they engage in and participate in every day. And we know that 97% of our youth have access to a device that is connected to the internet every single day. And we don't even have the statistics on the younger children. We're still in that gap of research and really understanding that piece. The coercive tactics and strategies used by predators to target minors and young people, we are better understanding those, and we have gathered some vital information that helps us raise awareness and equip our adolescents and young people and their guardians and caregivers with critical information. As you heard, this bill, as Ricky noted, has a strength in it, and we appreciate that piece because raising awareness is going to be so vital. So if that young person that is being manipulated and threatened and blackmailed sees that they are themselves a victim, even if they have shared that nude image or video, to know that they are a victim of a crime. And this is the number to call, and this is where you can go. And here's the suicide crisis hotline, because we know attempted and completed suicides around this trend are very alarming. So if you are a young person or a parent or caregiver wants to gain more information to protect yourself from this crime before we hopefully get this bill passed this session and get that information out there, I would encourage you to visit the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, called NCMEC. They talk about child sexual abuse materials that are out there in our world, as well as how to get those images down or take action to get help. Sextortion is a devastating crime. It has lifelong consequences for our victims. The impacts can spark life-altering crises and psychological traumas for young people experiencing sextortion. People Against Trafficking Humans Coalition of Kentucky would like to offer free education sessions on a virtual platform through this legislative session. For anyone that wants to engage in that, please contact our website and we'll be able to enhance our learning and understanding, because these digital environments are just like the highway. Would you put your teenager out on the road after a few lessons in their vehicle and with that device? No, you wouldn't. We need to treat our digital environments the same way. We need to prepare not only how to change that flat tire or handle that road rage situation that they've never been in, but also the normal navigation every day of what they're seeing and encountering in their digital environments. So thank you.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, activists, community actors. My name is Lady T. Thompson, and today I come before you not with mere words as a mother, a grandmother, or a human trafficking fellow working on national frameworks for the country on human trafficking and toolkits that everyone can utilize for human trafficking and sextortion. Nor am I here for UNA USA, but I'm here today with an appeal, a plea on behalf of our children, our communities, and our humanity. The crises of sextortion and sextortion-based trafficking is not a shadow lingering in some distant land. It's here, it's real, and it's devouring the innocence of our youth. Sextortion and sextortion-based trafficking occurs as a gateway. It's a gateway to human trafficking. When an individual is coerced into providing explicit images, videos, or acts under threats of exposure, harm, or blackmail, and a party profits in the form of money, drugs, or something else of value, often beginning online. It traps victims into cycles of fear, forcing compliance and enabling traffickers to escalate control, leading to in-person exploitation and trafficking. So these forms of exploitation are insidious. It begins with a seamless, harmless exchange, a direct message from a stranger, a friend request, a compliment in a moment of vulnerability. But behind the screen is a predator, patient and calculating, ready to shatter a life with one explicit photo or video. The trap is set. The victim, often a youth, is plunged into a nightmare of fear, coercion, and despair. This is not a theoretical issue at all. This is happening to our sons, our daughters, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and to the children of Kentucky and the youth all across America. Consider this. The FBI has reported a 1,000 increase in sextortion cases involving minors over the past 5 years. 1,000%. So these are our children. And they're not just numbers, they're lives. Polaris reported in 2023, nearly 88% of trafficking recruitment happens online. So every mobile device is a tool, and every tool has good actors and bad actors. So these platforms that the tool of technology is using connects people to potential friends and for young people to express themselves, but it also exposes them to digital exploitation. Here in Kentucky, with one of the highest rates of missing children per capita per the National Human Trafficking Hotline report in 2023, it makes for a fertile ground here in Kentucky for predators to weaponize shame and isolation. So think about that. Think about the pain of a child trapped in a cycle that they cannot escape. Think about the parents who will never get the chance to hold their children again because of the shame that was too much to bear. Think about the suicide notes left behind by children who felt that there was no other way out. This is a crisis that is not just devastating, it is preventable. It's preventable. It is preventable. And yet, we are not moving fast enough. We are allowing the predators to outpace our protections. Please, please deploy legislative action on sextortion as a felony with increased penalties when minors are involved. This is important to Kentucky because Kentucky can lead the way. And there's 3 keys that I've identified as a human trafficking fellow and working on sextortion for the last 24 months. Kentucky cannot afford to wait. The cost of inaction is too high. The cost is measured in stolen futures and shattered lives. So number 1, prevention is key. Kentucky ranks 5th in the nation for child poverty and the economically vulnerable, which makes 4 times more likely for a targeted trafficker and sextortionist to find them. Poverty creates desperation, and desperation makes easy prey. So there has to be more embedding of digital education programs for youth and parents and caregivers, and creating community safety nets. We can teach our children how to recognize and escape these traps, these online and digital harm traps. Number 2, protection is another key. Our laws are outdated, inadequate for the realities of sextortion and sextortion-based trafficking. Kentucky must pass comprehensive legislation that criminalizes sextortion explicitly, recognizing it for the form of criminality that it is. We must update statutes, provide law enforcement with advanced investigation tools, and deliver survivors with trauma-informed support services so that no one is left behind after the aftermath. Number 3, prosecution. Prosecution is a pivotal key. The U.S. Department of Justice reported in 2023 less than 5% of sextortion-based cases lead to federal convictions. The predators know this, and they exploit it. We need better tools of law enforcement, enhanced cybercrime units, and dedicated prosecutors who specialize in these cases. Kentucky can set a national standard showing predators that this is where their power ends. Every moment we delay, another child is pulled into the abyss. Every moment we hesitate, another family is broken beyond repair. What's the cost of doing nothing? Now, I'm from Detroit, so I say nothing, but it's nothing. If we don't act, what will we say to the mother whose child is no longer here because they didn't bear the shame of the exploitation? What will we tell the father who discovers too late that his daughter's cry for help was silenced by fear? What will we tell ourselves as we look in the mirror knowing we had the power to stop it and chose not to? This isn't about legislation or partisanship or policy, it's about humanity. Our children are not collateral damage. They are not bargaining chips in a game played by predators. They are the future, and we're felling them against digital exploitations and online harms. We need legislative action on sextortion as a felony with increased penalties when minors are involved. Take a stand for justice and protection. Support Senate Bill 73 by Senator Julie Adams. And thank you for listening to my appeal.
I am Tina Halbig, President of the United Nations Association of the United States of America, Kentucky Division. I'd like to point out that our Vice President, Rob Weber, is also here. And I want to tell you about some numbers. Earlier, NCMEC was mentioned. That's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a cyber tip line, and in 2015 to 18, they had 5,017 reports of sextortion of minors. Then in 2022, the U.S. Justice Department sounded the alarm of an explosive increase of 3,000 children who became victims, with over a dozen at that time committing suicide. There are likely many more victims who have not come forward to report the harassment. These crimes can and will devastate victims and their families. Sometimes students are moved to another school, and most need counseling. Sextortion can also lead to engaging a victim to be trafficked for financial payments. NCMEC released a report in April of 24 of monthly sextortion reports with a graph. And in 2022, 10,731 reports. In 2023, 26,718 reports. While sextortion is a global problem, here in Kentucky, we can help save lives by passing Senate Bill 73, sponsored by Senator Adams, and House Bill 47 by Representative Shane Baker, and ask all legislators to become co-sponsors. We need to help bring awareness to parents to talk to their children. We need to help the public understand that images can be taken from their cell phones, even if in Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, gaming, or video chats, etc. Insist that everyone be vigilant to close the camera lens on cell phones and computers and TVs, especially when undressing and changing clothes. Help is available. The number to call is 1-800-CALL-FBI. Also, it's important to give the suicide prevention number of 988 to people. NCMEC, cybertipline.org, and Homeland Security can also help. Let all know that hacking a victim's device to gain access and control of the webcam or phone camera to obtain images or videos can devastate lives. Predators can make calls from other countries. More laws will be needed as artificial intelligence and other electronic devices are used. One young extortionist claimed to have made $800,000 in his first year. Multiple people are being extorted daily, even by one predator. It's lucrative, and they will not stop until laws force them to face responsibility. Here is your action item. Please write down this number. We ask the public to call Frankfurt 1-800-372-7181 to ask all legislators to pass Senate Bill 73 and House Bill 47. Thank you for attending our press conference today. And if you want a memento, we have flyers here that give the definition of sextortion. There are photos of young people here who have taken their lives, that these are not numbers, these are real people, and they devastate the families. Some of them are only 13 years old. They've gone after them as young as 9 years old. Thank you.